Yes, here we go. Welcome to the bus home from the Boys in the Bus podcast. And we're here to discuss Partick Thistle 0, Glasgow Celtic 4. Joining me this evening are Liam, as usual. How are you, mate?
Good, mate. Really good. Nice 7:30 game for me today, so wasn't too bad. Got up, watched the game, back came in the house, no bother. All good.
And I also have Conor. How are you, mate?
I'm good, mate. How are you? Nice to see you again. Been a long time.
I'm not too bad, mate. I'm not too bad. So all that good stuff, give us a like, give us a share, pretend you care, hit the notification button, all that stuff. $1.99 for a membership. Gets you a nice, shiny Glasgow Celtic green and white scarf. It doesn't get you any extra features, but it does help us put a little bit of diesel into the bus. So let's get the score up there. There we go. So, comfortable. Nice game. A little break from the league. And we're now into a semi-final. I kind of think this competition, it's a little bit weird in that you can win a cup by winning 4 games, but that's the way it is in Scotland. The teams that are in Europe join it at the later stages, and we've played 2 games and we have won them. What's your overall impressions on the game that we've just watched between the 2 biggest teams in Glasgow?
I'll let Liam go first on that one.
Well, I predicted 5-0 yesterday, 4-0, so still quite happy with that. As far as the game goes, I wasn't enjoying it at the first because, and this is one of the horrors of watching Celtic TV and having to listen to Jerry McCullough, is you never know actually what is going on because Jerry's in a studio and he tries to tell you what he thinks is going on. So he'd missed the first 2 goals. He had no idea Yang scored, no idea Scales had scored. And then he started talking about, I was looking at the beginning of the game, I was thinking, wow, this is a really weird game of football to watch because the pitch looked absolutely waterlogged. We were trying to zip balls along and you're seeing people were getting caught with the ball and it was splashing and all that. But Jerry McCullough tried to tell everybody that it was because the pitch was too dry, that it hadn't been watered since Tuesday. And I'm thinking, what is he talking about? And Killian Sheridan pitching in as well, how hard it is to play on dry pitches. And I'm looking, my eyes deceiving me. I was watching it on a 20-foot screen. That pitch looks absolutely soaking to me, was the reason why they couldn't go on. And I thought that that was the case. And I think when we first started playing, you see the balls we were trying to ping about the back and it was stopping. And the ball was just not carrying and not moving the way it usually does on a wet pitch. It was sticky. And I thought that made the first part of the game hard to watch. But out of that, we still managed to get the 2 goals. And then I thought by the time we played in the second half, that pitch was starting to dry up a wee bit and it looked good. And I was just wondering, did Partick Thistle come out and overwater that pitch to try and slow down their game in the beginning? Because the guys in the studio,
Liam, the guys in the studio called it out before the game. Mark Wilson, in his pre-match, he was on the side of the pitch there where they have got their little setup, and Charlie Mulgrew had said to him that the grass was really long, and they were laughing about it. It was intentionally long to try and make it difficult for Celtic to get into their passing game, essentially.
I mean, it was, and that's a terrible tactic to have when. By the way, I've watched Bulgarian football. I've been in Serbia and I've watched football, and I'm not kidding you. I've never seen as big a shithole a stadium as what I've seen as Firhill. Jesus Christ, that was.
Tell you how bad it is, mate. I played there. I played there whenever I was under 17.
Is it? Must have been better then because.
It was the exact same. There's nothing behind the 2 nets, and there's a terrace and a stand, and nothing behind the 2 nets. Conor, keen to get your early sort of views on it. How do you think it went?
I thought I agree with Liam. Obviously, the pitch was not dry at all. It's been pissing the rain like the last week in Glasgow specifically. So, especially last night, the weather was absolutely terrible. So, it's not to do with that. But obviously, if you're a manager, being a Mark Wilson, who's managing Partick Thistle, and one of your tactics is to let the grass do a part of your job, I think that's more of a problem I think we should really have with Scottish football in general. You're not relying on necessarily your belief in your players, the belief in your tactics, your belief in your squad. You're relying on partly the pitch to help you out a bit, and I think that's maybe a bit of a problem that we do have here. It's like people like that, and David Martindale, and to a lesser extent Derek McInnes, even though he's doing really well at Hearts, employing really shite tactics and holding the ball up and just camping the place out to try and, scrape by and really try and more nullify teams as opposed to beat them. I would rather see a team like Partick Thistle or whoever we would draw in the cup to actually have a proper go and try and attempt to win the thing and actually make a stab at it, as opposed to try and just frustrate. And you've seen that within the first 20-30 minutes. I thought it was really slow. I was getting quite, not nervous, but I was quite a bit like, oh, here we go again. This is going to be another Kelly. This is going to be another, St Mirren, where the opposing team is purposely going to try and, just nullify us to the point of, exasperation, to where we can't get a passing game, up to speed, all that kind of stuff. And, my fears were quickly, dissuaded by the latter quarter of the first half. So, I do think that it was a big improvement today over what we've seen, but whether that's going to carry the confidence into Europe and stuff like that, I don't know, because at the end of the day, it is just against Partick Thistle, the second biggest team in Glasgow. But it's, I don't know. I did enjoy the game. I thought a lot of the players looked a bit sharper. A lot of the players who maybe came under scrutiny when they came in show what they were about. Some players who have been given opportunities, guys like Donovan, have kind of grabbed the opportunity, I think, with both hands, and shown what they're all about. I think I know we've got on my later bank, he's quickly cemented himself as second place right back behind Alistair Johnson when he comes back. I think Anthony Ralston's time, whether he was injured or not, I think if Donovan continued to play and perform, I think his time is kind of done at Celtic, for me, to be honest. But yeah, I think the first half really slow to start, but I think as we've seen later on, we got there in the end, and when you have absolute players like Tenetke, pulling up the bootstraps and actually attempting to drive forward with the ball and try something a bit adventurous and get bums off seats and try and excite the fans, excite people paying to go and see that game, then I think with more guys like that in the squad, if we even got them in earlier, I feel like the fears and the criticism over the last couple of months could have been quickly dissuaded if we'd actually gotten our act together and gotten guys like that in when we should have done.
Conor, if that is a summary, I don't know. Right, we're up to 50 in the chat. The likes police are out, so we've only got 16 likes. Let's get more likes in there. The big boys will all be finishing up now, so let's try and get the viewership up to 100. Liam, you were about to ask me something just as we went live.
Don't know what it was.
I think you're going to ask me what that was up in the corner.
Corner what?
Corner of the screen.
I don't know. What is it? What is it?
A defibrillator. Just I wanted to have this just in case I needed it for Conor, a virtual defibrillator. But with a 4-0 victory, hopefully we'll be okay. Hopefully we'll not need that.
You don't need that for me today.
It's there in case we need it. Okay.
My heart rate's actually, fine for once, on the back of a relatively convincing Celtic win for once.
Let's have a look at the lineup. So I expected more changes. I did expect Simasalo to come in. I thought Donovan would play because we didn't have anybody else. I thought and hoped that we would see two different centre backs. I hoped that we would have seen Dean Murray and the lesser seen Jemai Simpson-Pusey. Not a chance. It's Carter Vickers and Scales. Tierney, I probably did think Tierney would play, but that's only because I thought the other two centre-backs would play that I've just mentioned, and I thought we'd have Tierney in there for a bit of experience. Midfield three, I thought we'd get a rest from these three. I thought he'd give them a rest. And give us a rest, to be honest, because that three hasn't been working. And I thought if there's ever a game where you're going to give Luke McKayan, Tyler Bernardo, and Arnie Engels a chance to express themselves, this would be the one. But no, it didn't happen. Brendan's gone for that three. Taneke had to play after last week. Ian Acho needs to get minutes in the legs. None of that surprised me. Yang on the right, actually, it didn't surprise me because listening to the manager's comments during the week, there was no way he was going to play Balikwisha on the right again. And it kind of made sense, as much as Yang had one foot out the door, as much as he's only had fleeting moments of, I don't even want to say brilliance, moments of looking like a decent enough player every now and again. I kind of think what he's gone for there is when Yang does get the ball, he does try to take his full back on. And I think the thinking there is with Taneke doing it on the left, if you had a winger on the other side doing the same thing, then you're wreaking havoc down both wings. But the difference is Yang doesn't do that all the time. And when he starts, he doesn't seem to perform anywhere near the level as when he comes on for the last 10 minutes. So I was surprised. I expected more changes. I wanted more changes, if I'm being honest. What does it say about these guys that can't get a look in when I know I joked earlier about it being Glasgow's two biggest clubs, but if they're not going to get a game in the League Cup against a lower level team, what does that say about these guys that we've got as backups? What's your thoughts on the team lineup, lads?
I thought right after the beginning, I was surprised that Callum McGregor started. I mean, this is a guy, he started him every single pre-season game as well. He's not really had much time off. And I thought he struggled. He looked like he was struggling on that wet pitch. Yeah, the back four, I'm surprised. I knew Donovan was going to play because, again, we've got nobody else. And I'm really like watching his development. So I thought for sure we'd been starting with a Dane Murray or somebody in there as well, just to, because I thought CCV's been fighting it a wee bit, you know. I mean, even today, Vickers, again, what usually is uncharacteristic mistakes for him are now becoming very characteristic in every game. And he seems to be letting a wee one slide or sclaffing at a ball. He just doesn't seem to have the passion and the intent right now. Like, I don't see him, busting his ass in the in the back to try and thread passes. There was a couple of times he lifted his head up and he caught Taneke with an out ball. And I think that was what the big difference I saw. Everybody was lifting up their head and they were looking for that cross-field ball for Taneke because, we finally got somebody that's hot right now, that's a focal point up there. And so everything going towards him. But, good skills I thought was fighting the ball as well. There's times I've seen him taking 12 touches where he's like, honestly, he's trying to steer that ball. He's just taking far too many touches. I thought his goal was good. And then we saw 2 full 90 minutes with both our fullbacks. In fact, I think all 4 of them, our guys played 90 minutes. And I thought Sinisalo was excellent today as well. I thought he was very good at keeping his concentration up. And I thought that save that he made probably around the 60th, 70th minute, it was pretty well a free header in the box where the guy picked a corner and Sinisalo really extended his body to get that. It was a proper Hollywood save. Looked good. So, yeah, I was surprised at the selection that we didn't rest some of the more guys that were getting loads and loads of game time. Would you
so it's the first. First 90 minutes for Kieran Tierney, which is good because I thought we just signed him on a part-time basis. He's now full-time, which is good. He did speak after the game and he did say that that's his first 90 minutes in quite some time and that he feels he is very close to where we need him to be. We've talked there, Conor, about not very many changes and no opportunity from the start for Bernardo, Engels, McKeown, and other guys that have been in and around the first team squad. But there's not even a place on the bench for Simpson Pusey, Inamura, Shinyamada, Johnny Kenny. What does that say about these guys? And I know with the whole movement, the supporter movement and everything, and there's been a lot of emphasis put on trying not to make any of the action impact what's happening in the field. But I think through his team selection and stuff, the manager is clearly letting the issues behind the scenes play out in what we're seeing. And he's clearly telling everyone that these four players are nothing to do with him. And, well, Johnny Kenny was already there, but I'm pretty sure Johnny Kenny was one of these Dermot Desmond type initiatives, much like Paddy McCourt and Liam Scales and any other Irish player that is showing any kind of promise that hasn't been snapped up by any of the teams down south. But are these players so far off the scale, not good enough, that they can't even get a place on the bench against Partick Thistle in a cup game? Or is this the manager and the club playing out this divorce/separation that I've talked about in public?
I mean, I can't comment because some of them you've hardly seen them play, so it would have to be obviously what they're showing on the training pitch. I don't know why the fuck we've even signed that boy Pusey, and he must be wondering why the hell he's even here, to be honest, because he hasn't had a sniff. We had, Brendan coming out and saying that he's not ready, he's not fit, stuff like that. He needs to get up to speed, but then he somehow makes the bench against teams. I think one was against Kairat.
I think in the European ones, everyone who's in the 25 is named on the bench.
Aye.
So I think that's the difference. And one thing, sorry, just to cut across you, I'll let you finish your point. One thing that I found really weird was, and again, Brendan usually doesn't waste words in his press conferences, but he said on Friday that it's taken him a bit of time to get up to the intensity of our training. Now, hold on 1 second. Are you telling me that Manchester City are not training as intense as we are? Because there's certainly no intensity in our play on the pitch. And if we're training at the same level as we're playing, and he's trying to say that it's taken him a lot of time to adjust to the intensity, the only way I can think that statement's true is if our intensity is so much lower than their intensity, and he's trying to adjust to it. That's a strange one. There has to be something else going on here around this one. I'll let you finish your point, but that one's kind of, it's annoying me because I expected him to come in and take a first team jersey, and I expected him, based on any research that I've done about him, to be the centre back that we've been missing, the one who is comfortable in possession, bringing the ball out, breaking the lines, and bringing the ball forward and starting attacks. As far as I was aware, they were his strengths. And I expected him to come in and slot straight into the first team. And I'm absolutely baffled as to how he cannot get on the bench against Partick Thistle. And the other guys, they say if they're not going to get a chance today, those guys aren't going to play any minutes this season at all.
It's a mystery to me, mate. I mean, you know, you don't get a more possession-based team, I'd say, in the UK than Man City, to be honest, because that is what their play, you know, is all about. That's the Pep Guardiola style of football. And if you're trying to tell me that he hasn't trained the Man City first team, at least on the odd occasion, then I don't know what you're talking about, because Celtic B team players train with the first team from time to time. Man City B team players will probably more likely train the first team from time to time. He was the captain of Manchester City B team. He won Player of the Year, I'm sure, last season with them as well. And you know, he helped them over the line to win the Premier League B title, I'm sure. So I was relatively excited when he first came in, because I'm like, this boy's got a good pedigree. He's come to a really good level. You know, playing Premier League B team football is probably more than likely at the level of.
He's playing the Champions League for Man City now, albeit they get stuffed, and Yorker has scored a hat trick against him. But he was playing in the Champions League for them.
You know, I mean, their level of football is you know, equal to, if not higher, probably than majority of the Scottish Premiership, maybe bar Celtic. But you're trying to tell me he couldn't come in and potentially make an impact, then I don't know what the point is in even signing them. You know, the same time, the guys like Inamura, obviously well documented by Rodgers that he was not a signing by him at all, you know, and he was more likely looking to get him out on a loan. But he came in pre-season and during the league as well, and performed relatively well, and people, you know, liked what they saw. So if you're trying to tell me that he couldn't, you know, play 45 minutes against Partick Thistle in the cup, then I don't see what his place is going to be. You know, these guys are just wasting air. Basically, they're wasting their time being stuck here and not getting, you know, a sniff, because, like you're saying, Terry, they're more likely not going to get a chance at all. Johnny Kenny, I heard, was potentially at the door going to either St Mirren or Motherwell before the window closed, and that never, you know, amounted to anything. Guys like Yang, who he played, you know, was literally had his bags packed, was down there about to sign down south, I think it was at Birmingham. Johnny Kenny, you know, played a wee bit in pre-season, scored in pre-season against Newcastle, showed a bit of promise, you know, and it's came in a couple of times, but when they're not getting the opportunity to play against low-level opposition in the cup, you know, I don't really see the point. Like, why keep them then? You know, if you're not going to get a move for them so they can try and play regular football, you know, Brendan Rodgers said about Inamura, I'm sure that, you know, he's maybe not, you know, his defensive side isn't, you know, the best, needs to work on that. They might not get him a move out to a team that would play more defensively, so he can work on that type of game, like I don't know, St Johnston or a Kelly or somebody like that. Fuck, even
his deal fell through as well, because he was part of the it wasn't part of the Yang deal, but he was going there as well. But because they couldn't get Yang done, Birmingham spat the dummy out and just didn't bother with Inamura. And what you've got there is you've got a group of players now who are that they're not going to want to play in the B team. And to be fair, they're probably a level up from the B team, but they're nowhere near the level of the first team. And you've just got this group of players scooting about the club all week who are in total limbo, who aren't going to be playing football, and it's totally unhealthy. And again, it just epitomizes the feelings of this summer. Let's pick out some of the key moments in the game. I thought the first 20-25 minutes before we scored, I thought it was quite drab stuff. The only highlight was Benjamin Negrin knocking a corner straight out of the park. When he's come in, I've sort of got on that bus where he looked a player, he looked a bargain. I still think he is, but I don't think he's done enough in the last few games to warrant being straight in there as a starter all the time. He got quite a lot of minutes today, but we take the lead in 25 minutes, and I didn't even know we'd taken the lead. You touched on it earlier, Liam. It was a wee bit like the Cameron Carter Vickers. Was wasn't it Cameron Carter-Vickers scored in the cup final against Aberdeen, and he kind of just didn't celebrate, and nobody actually knew it was in, and he didn't think it was a goal. I thought this was in the side netting. The commentators thought it was in the side netting. Yang had a face on him like Nicholas Kuhn, and I didn't think it was a goal. And then you just realise the ball's in the net and we're 1-0 up. I thought it was quite a strange moment.
Well, actually, when you see the replay, and it wasn't until you got about the third replay that you could actually see that it went in. It did hit it with force. It hit a player that was trying to sort of keep it out, but there was no way. It was just ricocheting off him right into the net. That's what I said as well. Like, Jerry McCulloch didn't know it was a goal. And then we know he's watching in the studio. So there's no replay on the screen yet, but he's describing the goal that he never saw the first time, telling us what happened. I don't know. It does my head in. But, I thought Yang took it. I thought Yang had a very good game. I thought getting into that position, I think he did really well. I thought Benji whipping that ball across. I mean, that was one of the better things he did all day as well.
Yeah, I've criticised him, but that was a wonderful tee up, honestly.
You touched on earlier as well. I was one of these guys that was cheering for him when he came in. I thought he looked a player. What I've seen now, and I mentioned this on Friday's show. I don't know. He just looks overconfident in a sense where he's came in, he's hit this team running, and all of a sudden he's one of the stars on the team where he's not really earned that yet. He was every free kick, every corner. He was trying to take on men, and perhaps doing too much. And so now that there's other people on the team to spread that responsibility, I want to see more Reegan showing up. I still haven't seen him come close to what I thought he was in his first couple of games he played with us. And I'd like to see him pick that up. But great ball across for that, and it was good to see. We were piling a lot of balls. That's the most balls I've seen coming in for that side, not just for Toneke, but also for Donovan. Donovan hit some great balls across. Yang. It was nice to see that we were actually trying to find Iheanacho in the middle of the park rather than just hoping he was going to create the magic by himself. Never worked off, but it was good to see that the ball's flying in, that, once we get tuned up into his rhythm, we'll start panging him in as well. But good goal out of that one cross.
So the only way today's game was really become a problem is if we struggle to make the breakthrough. So we've made it on 25, and at that point you're thinking that's probably job done. We've got the first goal, and what tends to happen, not all the time, but what tends to happen in this scenario is Celtic go on to win comfortably, which inevitably we did. However, we scored again within a couple of minutes just to really hammer home the advantage. I'll come to you in this one, Conor. It was a corner. We've scored from a corner again. And it's Liam Scales again, who does pop up every now and again with goals. It was a good corner. It was a good header. Keeper might have done better, but I think it was a good header. It was pretty much in the top corner, and he maybe could have got a stronger hand to it, but that puts us 2-0 up. At that stage, are you feeling game over?
Aye. For me, like, as soon as that second goal went in such quick succession, it was like, it's easy street now. I feel like that would have kind of dampened any fire that Partick Thistle would have had in them, because, I mean, I was saying that obviously Mark Wilson purposely could have fucking was putting the feed out last night on the grass to try and grow it a bit to try and stop Celtic. But I thought Partick Thistle did okay defending and actually pressing us as well. To be honest, he did kind of press a lot more than I think maybe a lot of teams would do when they're playing Celtic, which isn't exactly saying much, but still. But as soon as that goal went in, I'm like, cool, the game's done, basically done, dusted. Now it just becomes a question of how many more are we going to score, to be honest, because the Celtic at that point still could have went up, a couple of years, and obviously we did in the second half. But it was a good header as well. The keeper, I think, was quite suspect. He made more contact with the fucking post than he did with the ball, venturing into the net. So, Liam Scales does what he does again, pops up, wins a header in the box, and, puts in the back of the net. He's done that, loads of times for Celtic. And I think it maybe because he is kind of like there's always got to be a whipping boy at Celtic, whether it was Clarkson or Greg Taylor before, or whether it's Scales, or whether it's Nagan, whether it's Hatate, whether it's Bartquisha, whoever it is going to be, because it changes bloody every week. Scales is often the whipping boy, and a lot of times it is, is worthy of being, deemed as such, because he does, make mistakes and he can be a bit awkward on the ball and does things like that. But, he has popped up a lot of times with key goals as well. Even remember his first season when he came in under Ange, and he scored an absolute fucking peach when he was playing at left back, in a game as well. So he scored, a lot of important goals. He scored their first goal, I'm sure, last season in the Champions League against Slovan Bratislava. So he's popped up with goals, really important goals, and must-win games like it was today. And I think he deserves his flowers for it, because he does come under quite a lot of, harsh criticism from me, especially. I might go here where I'm doing my rants and stuff like that. Like I do go to Feeder and Liam Scales quite a lot, but when he does deserve praise, I will give him, because I don't dislike him. I think he's a good player. I think he proved a hell of a lot of us, wrong, because when we first started coming to the team, we're like, Jesus Christ. I think the first game was against Rangers, when we first started trying to, make a name for himself in the team. We're all like, Jesus Christ, this is going to be an absolute, massacre. And then he's stepped up to the plate massively. So well done, Liam Scales.
Okay, so we almost scored a third just before half-time. Good work by Yang down the right, sets up Hatate. You're expecting a net to balls, doesn't happen. I thought Hatate was all right today. He was decent. So we're going at half-time. We're 2 goals up, and we come out for the second half, and we get that all-important third, which just kills off any chance of any sort of upset. And for me, it's probably the best goal of the season so far. It's the one that I've enjoyed the most. Tinekti done a hell of a lot of good stuff last week in his first game, but didn't score. He done a hell of a lot of good stuff today, but he gets that goal, and I just enjoyed that goal. So it's him driving down the left, plays a 1-2 with Iheanacho, and he finishes with a lot of confidence, a lot of aplomb. I was quite hard on Stephen Reegan in the build up to the game. He described Iheanacho as he plays like a centre forward, and I'm going, well, of course he plays like a centre forward. He is a centre forward. How much do you get paid to give us that insight that he plays like a centre forward? But what he actually meant was he's got the brain of a centre forward. I think the point, and it is a good one, is if Daizan Maeda's playing through there, he probably isn't playing like a natural centre forward who has always played in that position. He's a wide player playing through the middle for all intents and purposes. And whilst Iheanacho, he wasn't overly involved today, and he didn't have too many opportunities to score. He had one that he sent out of the park. But there were a couple of moments in the game where you could see that his brain, he's got a good football brain. And I think with him, there is a chance that we can reignite his football career. But there also is a chance that his best years are gone and he will not be able to get them back. And it feels like I go to loads of kids matches with my boys and stuff. And what you sometimes see is the ball will fly out of play, but you'll have somebody on the sideline who's really old and best days are behind him, but he's still got the first touch and he'll trap it and you'll just go, you never lose it, you never lose it. And Iheanacho hasn't lost the touch. And you could see that with that third goal, the 1-2, the pass, it was perfect. It was perfectly weighted for Tinekti to run onto. And the weeks and months ahead will let us see if Iheanacho can get back to somewhere near his best. If he can, we've won a watch. Whatever way we've managed to get there, if he can get anywhere near his best form, we've won a watch. But even if he doesn't, we've still got a player whose brain is still making the right noises and making the right sounds. And we probably just have to run with that between now definitely now in January, because we can't change anything. Yes, Dyson will probably start through the middle some games. Iheanacho will start through the middle some games. It might even be a case of the manager just keeps changing it, looking for the right mix. We could see Kenny come in. We could see Yamada come in. I don't think we will, but where I'm going with this is I don't think Iheanacho was brilliant, but I think in flashes you could see why he was a very, very good player. And he is only 28. And let's just hope beyond hope that over the next 3 months, the manager and his colleagues are able to eke out any sort of improvement in him in terms of his form over the last few years, because there is a quality player in there, and it all came out in that third goal. It was just enjoyable, and that's the kind of thing I want to see as a supporter watching Celtic. I want to see Mo Winger driving at a full back, and I want to see some kind of cohesion where players are playing off each other, and you can see a moment that just makes you applaud. And I just, when I was watching that, I just stood and applauded, and I just thought, that's a happy moment. And that's why we watch Celtic, and that's why we watch football. We just want to see moments that make us happy. Did it do the same for you, boys? Liam?
I absolutely loved that. That was my favourite goal of the day. Probably one of my favourites so far this season. Seeing two new boys contributing like that. Even you get an experienced striker like Iheanacho on the part in that, if he doesn't score, you want to at least see your strikers contributing in some way to something positive. And what I liked about that is I saw them trying that earlier. There was an earlier spot in the game as well where they tried that move that we sort of stab at. And that's always the one thing I've missed since we had, I thought, used to see it with Kyogo and Matt O'Reilly. There'd be a wee stab just within the box, a wee 3-4 yard pass that you just sort of stab it through. And I think we had some success with that today. You can see that maybe is something that we'll work on as well, is like changing the direction and changing the angle, not just trying to get it across, but doing that really quick pass and people running into space. And I think Tanetki's brought that vibrancy to the team where she's sort of shown people how to run into space. And now you're seeing like people like Yang and all that sort of picking up on that. And maybe that's part of just having somebody like Iheanacho that understands that even if he's not in a scoring position himself, he can still contribute to the team. And yeah, I thought that was okay. I mean, I think his first 2 games that I've seen him play for us now, he's starting to develop. We're starting to see something. We'll wait to see when he bursts the net for a goal for open play. But so far, yes, so good. And yeah, it was a very enjoyable goal. And well done. I thought the finish was superb. Tanetki, I think he's looking good. I just hope he can sustain this, and we'll see what he's like on Wednesday.
It was good to see him get a goal, because whenever we were negotiating for him, everybody's the same. You do the YouTube, and on this occasion, what you've seen on YouTube is what you've seen in the first 2 games, where he just gets the ball and he runs at his fullback. That's what he does. But if you then look at the stats, the data, the other side of the game that is now so important, you probably weren't overwhelmed with his numbers in terms of goals. So for him to get off the mark within 2 games, and aside from the goal that he got, he also had a really good effort earlier in the game, which the goalkeeper made a really good save. And he did also have shots on goal last week. So I'm very hopeful that he can come in, and if he can make half the contribution in his first season that Nicholas Kuhn made in his second season, then I think we're on to a winner with this guy. Conor, what do you think of that third goal? I genuinely, it's one of those ones that I'll go back and I'll look at it later on, and I'll probably look at it a couple of times during the week again, just to sit and enjoy it.
Aye, it was brilliant for me, to be honest. Like, everything Tanetki's done since he's came in the door, I've absolutely loved. That's what I was saying earlier. You've got a player who gets bums off seats, who wants to drive at their man who wants to, take on players. Like he was even getting doubled up on, at certain points of the game and was taking both of them on, at multiple points throughout the game. So I'm very happy with his output so far, to be totally honest. He very skillful, got a pace about him, clearly knows where the back of the net is. Like you're saying, Nacho's got a good football brain. I think he's also got a good football brain as well. You could see that with some of the passes he was doing as well with through balls. He is giving me similar vibes to what we got when Jota first came in the door. We're like saying, now this boy looks like he's got something about him. They look very similar in terms of what they can do. Obviously, Jota, on the whole, probably a more skillful, silkier player. But I think with Tineke, you can clearly see that the boy's got a lot of hunger in him. And that's what I like to see as a player who says, right, I'm going to fucking whip my ass off to impress the manager, impress the fans, to earn my spot in this team and show people what I can do. Because, I think that's what we've needed. We've not had players so far up until now this season where they're saying, right, I need to take a bit of onus on myself to make something happen. It's kind of just like, stick to the formula, don't change the formula. If plan A doesn't work, do plan A over again, try and do it better. But with Tineke, he looks like he's trying to do his own thing and take men on and and make a drive for the ball and make a run for the box. And like with Iheanacho, obviously he still doesn't look fit. Obviously, like that's going to take a while. You can see he's not necessarily the fastest, and we had the shot that went out and he had the shot that the keeper made a relatively comfortable save on, but that through ball to Tineke was, absolute different gravy to me. Like it was so clever to me. Like, and he was holding up the ball well throughout the entire game as well, without the ball fucking moving an extra 3 or 4 yards in a direction he didn't want, like you seen with Adam Ida. If that was Adam Ida in that position, he more than likely would have tried to hold off the man, turn, take a shot. If it was Maeda, as soon as that ball comes to him in that position, he more than likely sclaffs and tries to take a shot and it goes into row fucking Z. And that's what we're seeing with a guy who is of a pedigree, which is Premier League experience, Nigerian international, FA Cup winner, has played with, big teams like Sevilla, stuff like that. So I think it's clear to see like what he's going to offer to the team, and I'm happy with his contribution so far. I'm just hoping that, he's not shot his load too early, for want of a better term, and that there is more to come. I do hope that is, something that is in the pipeline for the future, because if he does come in and performs well, scores goals, and maintains a level throughout the season, gets his fitness up, tries, you can clearly see, obviously last week and this week, that like it means a lot to him. Same thing with Tineke when he's grabbing and kissing the badge and stuff like that. These boys are taking this opportunity by the horns. Iheanacho's career looked like it was kind of done, to be honest, and we've now given him a lifeline, and he looks like he's going to grab it and try and make the most of it as well for his own sake. Same thing with Tineke. He's got a chance here to play for a really big club and help his future. Get moves, whatever, impress thousands of fans a week and play on a big European stage. And I think that's something that we can look forward to, and it's something that we can be positive towards. It's something we haven't had, obviously, over the last few weeks, because there's been nothing to be positive about. And these two boys have came in and shown, right, we need to give these fans something to get excited for again. And it's something that I'm quite happy to see.
James comes in with a interesting point. Be interesting to see how Tineke copes with some heavy challenges from more physical opposition. What I expect to see happen here is, so we've had the whole Callum McGregor dominating Scottish football for the best part of 10 years, if you ask me. But now we've seen how teams try to nullify Callum McGregor because he's the focal point for everything. Everything goes through him. Now what will happen in team talks across dressing rooms across Scotland and any teams that we play in Europe, it'll be, right, you need to stop this guy on the left, and you can bet your bottom dollar in the next couple of weeks, somebody is going to go in heavy on this lad, really heavy. Let's see what he's got. Let's put him out of the game if we can, legitimately, legally, or illegally, whatever we have to do. If he's the main danger, which right now he is, he's a breath of fresh air in this team. Can you imagine if we've only seen this guy 2 games? Can you imagine now if we didn't have him?
Aye. Well, listen,
they're going to go in. They're going to go in and try and wipe him out in the next couple of games.
I think that would have happened against Kilmarnock. I mean, he was up against an absolute James Brown. Is it James Brown? He's always leaving one in late in the players, and he couldn't get near him. And I'm hoping, because I was thinking that as well, right? Let's wait to see when somebody sticks one on him. But that James Brown, he's been thugging into our players for ages, you know, and he's usually always due a yellow card at that, but he couldn't get close to him. And that's what I was looking at him as well. The way he takes the ball and the way he stands the player up, you're not getting a chance to rush in on him. He's very, very good at getting the ball early and, you know, taking the ball, you know, from a standing position and moving. I haven't seen him where he's been running onto balls and into tackles and stuff yet, but look, I mean, Tunisian, it's probably tough as fuck, you know. Oh, what do we got?
Breaking news. On the 65th minute, Mikel Ange, load of bollocks, played a forward pass. I'm only joking. I did say this last week. As much as I was having a laugh about him, I did say I was more than prepared to give him lots of time. The manager took the blame for last week's performance for playing him out of position. If you add that into the game at Ibrox being his introduction, then you can more than mitigate against a sort of underwhelming first 2 games from this guy that we've chased for 2 years. Now, I do have concerns because if he is a left winger, which he is, who can play every now and again across anywhere, but he is a left winger, and Tenekte is also a left winger, it's very, very lopsided, which then results in us having to play Yang, who was out the door and has now got a sourpuss, and even sourpuss than he ever had, to the point that he doesn't celebrate a goal. Or we've got James Forrest, who, with all due respect, is a 20-minute player now. Again, that's all part of the disastrous window that we've had, but that's where we're at. We've now got a million left wingers, and we've got nobody on the right. But I did feel in that little cameo today from Balakwisha, there were signs. There were signs that there is a player in there. He was looking up. There was one moment where he beat his man and he played Maida in. There was a chance that he had for himself. I genuinely do, all joking aside, I do think this player is good enough to play for Celtic, and I think we will see this over the coming weeks, months, years.
It was good to see him chasing back as well, because I think he helped the turnover from McCowan's goal. You know,
I was just about to say, Liam, I think that one of his, I actually do think there's been a bit of forward planning here, because Maida was meant to go in the summer. He was meant to go. The reason he didn't go is because we didn't get Dolberg. We let Ada go, and we then thought, shit, we've no centre forward, so we better keep Dizan for centre forward. But if I think what you'll see over the, as I say, the upcoming period, I think this guy's pressing. It won't be Maida levels, but I think that's one of his key attributes, is he closes down players. He chases, he harries, he harasses, he wins the ball back. That goal that we got today, I don't think that's the last time we'll see something like that, where he wins possession back and it ends up with Celtic scoring a goal. I genuinely do think someone somewhere has had a bit of planning here where they've said, right, Dizan's going. What are his main qualities? His main qualities are his pressing and his pace. And I think they've then put that into the system, and it's spat out a list of players, and within our range, There's one flashing, which is Balakwisha, and I think he's been brought in as the Maida replacement. But the only issue now is that Maida is still there because we didn't get other stuff done on the other side of the pitch. I think he'll make a contribution.
I disagree. I don't get that same vibe off him. I know it's early, but I don't see. He's done okay. Yeah, he's going to press and all that, but this guy should be a dime a dozen. It's like, what else does he has? We're more than pressing. We're playing in the Scottish League. I want to see a winger that's going to take on a man. That's going to stretch guys to the byline. Not seen any of that yet, Terry.
Yes, but just because Tunekde has come in and he's hit the ground running, it doesn't mean that this lad won't be a good player for us. You know, it's just like anything in life. These young lads are all moving from other countries and they're coming in, and some of them will settle straight away and some of them won't. And he's had 2 difficult experiences in his first 2 games. That game at Ibrox, you either sink or you swim, and he sank. And the next game, he was then played out of position. Now, the problem he's going to have is he's not going to play before Tunekde in this team. So
Jota,
it could. No, and Jota, the same. That's another one. Add that. So look at all 4 of those lads. Balakwisha, Tunekde, Jota, Maida. They're 4 left wingers.
Yeah.
4 left wingers, and then it's all lopsided. It's all on this one side, and no matter where any of those 4 then play to get into the team, they're not going to be playing in their favourite position. But I joked about him last week, and I did feel guilty about it, to be honest. I did feel guilty about mocking him and that kind of shit. But there has to be a player in there, Liam. There's no way what we've seen so far is all that he has to offer. I genuinely do think in the next couple of weeks, months, we will see why we've chased him for 2 years.
I don't know. To me, I said on Friday, I've never even seen a highlight reel on him that got me excited about him coming to the club. It's just one of his, if he turns out great, I'll support him like everybody else. But I'm optimistic just of what I've seen and about this recruitment window. I think, yeah, there's a very good chance that he could be a bust. The fact that we've been chasing him for 2 years, that just shows you how lazy we are. That can he get a guy like that across the line? Because I don't think we're competing against a list of clubs to try and sign this guy either. So it'll be interesting to see what we see in him. But right now, I don't see it. I don't see it at all. Hope he does well. But, you know, and just highlight the fact that he is another left winger when we're crying out for somebody in the right. And, you know, a lot of people think, well, we got these players in at last. We did okay. We you still have to look at the board and Rodgers or whatever's being asked for this recruitment window is the fact that we just brought everybody in on the one side. Like, I don't understand it. We've got Jota, we've got Maeda that can play on the left. We've lost right wingers, and that's the ones we don't replace. It just makes no sense at all. And going back to Rodgers' part in this as well, I really don't understand Rodgers' mind games with the players he plays, the players he sits out, and the guys that just get completely bombed out the team altogether. I mean, Johnny Kenny just got a 4-year contract. He's not even in the team. It's weird. Just weird, you know?
Yeah, but that's just in case we can sell him for $1.5 million in a couple of months' time. You know, it's absolute bollocks. Saving it's just total incompetence and everything. No matter how much as I try not to go back to the incompetence of the summer window, every little bit that we pick up and discuss in a match that we've just watched, that, you know, it's a 90 minutes on its own, but when you watch it, it all comes back to incompetence in terms of recruitment. Because as we're now saying, we've got 4 players on the books, albeit Jota's injured and Maida was supposed to go. We've now got 4 players who are all key players for this team, but they all play the exact same position. So if you're playing them in a favourite position, there's only one of those guys playing. Anyway, let's move on, Conor. I'll give you the last goal. Luke McCowan. Balagwesha wins the ball back. McCowan, I'm expecting him to square it. He doesn't. He sticks it in the net. What do you think of that one?
I was very, very impressed and very happy for Luke McCowan to score that goal, to be honest. I think he's shown what he's all about when he came on. His effort levels compared to, I think, the entirety of the trio in the midfield today, and the small cameo, like the 20-odd, 30-odd minutes they had, were, you know, above and beyond what the other three did today, you know, and that's going to show what he's all about. Like, he's maybe not on the surface a better player than the likes of you, Tati or CARRMAGEDDON, but he is a born and bred diehard Celtic fan, and this was the dream move of his career, and he is going to play for the fucking badge on the front, you know, front of the jersey, and he is going to try and give it his all, whether he ends up, you know, doing it or not. He's still going to try, and that's like to see, like to actually see a player who looks like they give a fuck and they want to try and make something happen, like with 1080. Do you know what I mean? So, I mean, I know that's the bare minimum for Celtic, but right now, I think the bare minimum's a breath of fresh air, considering how absolutely abysmal, you know, the start's been, not necessarily in terms of domestic results, but I'm talking about the entire situation and encapsulating everything that's happened with the club. And, you know, the play and stuff like that. But yeah, he tried really, really hard when he came on. Obviously, Bernardo was a bit of an empty jersey when he came on, to be honest, but that's not necessarily his fault. He's hardly fucking played. But McCowan, for me, he does try the audacious pass. He does try, you know, to make a tackle. He does win balls back. He does do everything you want to see of a Celtic player when they're on the pitch in that moment, and obviously to score that goal as well. He's came on in game after game after game, whether it's off the bench or starting, and contributed with goal contributions, you know, whether it's an assist or whether it's a goal. I don't know what his actual stats are for that. I don't know if you can get them up, but
Before
I
this
feel like
game, Conor, it was 19 starts, and I think it was 17 goal contributions in 19 starts. Now, I think with substitute appearances, he's made 50 appearances in and around that, but he's only started 19 times, and he's had 17 goal involvements, which is reasonably impressive, given that when he's not starting, he's usually only getting the dregs at the end.
Yeah, exactly. And, you know, he's dragged us over the line, you know, a couple of times, more so the first game of the season against St Mirren. You know, he come on, he gets that winner. Granted, deflected shot, but who actually cares, to be honest, because he's the one that got it. He's the one who I think gets it, as in what it means to be a Celtic player, more so than a lot of them.
He's one of us.
More so than a lot of, I agree with James Kennedy there, more so than a lot of the players, you know, who wear the jersey, more so than you could argue this season, than the captain, who came under, you know, massive scrutiny, and I do think fairly so, to be totally honest, because his performances have been, you know, lackluster, to say the least, if I'm being totally honest. I think McCowan, and what he's shown off for the start of the season today as well, he deserves a starting position in that team over the likes of Benjamin Nygren. I know Nygren got 2 assists today, right, and I'm not taking that away from him, and I know he scored, you know, goals against Livy, and he looked good in pre-season when he came in, and he's this shiny new toy that we've bought, and Brendan Rodgers wants to play with him. I get that. But everything else doing on the pitch, I think he's not, you know, living up to the hype that we had when we first brought him in, especially recently. For me, on Wednesday against Red Star, I'd 100% start Luke McCowan over Benjamin Nygren, like, any day, because, like you're saying, his goal contributions to his games played is spectacular. You know, I'm not going to do any Aluko and say, if you look at it this way, it's almost a goal a game. But it's something where there's something in there, and we've seen it when he was at Dundee. We've seen it when he came in the door at Celtic. He has impressed. He has stood up and been counted for, you know, in times of, you know, times of hardship and games where he's grabbed it by the scruff of the neck and won the fucking game for us. Do you know what I mean? And that's what I want to see from our players. I want Luke McCowan to get more minutes, because that is a boy there who you can guarantee, whether it's for 5 minutes, for 50 minutes, or for an entire 90 minutes, is going to bleed for the green and white hoops, and is going to give it his absolute fucking all for the jersey, for the manager, for the fans, and that's a hell of a lot more than what I can say for some of the players that have been getting regular starts this season.
Okay, we're up to over 100 in the live, which is superb. So thank you to everyone who's on. My player watch, 3 people. The first one we don't need to talk about again because it's the man of the match for the second week in a row to Nick T. Don't need to say anything. My next 2, I'll give you one each. I'm going to go to Liam for you. Colby Donovan. Understated, quiet, nothing flash. He's come in when we've been robbed of our first choice right back, and we've then been robbed of our second choice right back, and the lad has come in and he has done a good, solid job. He was involved in the winner last week against Kilmarnock, and I thought he was very solid today. And in the post-match celebrations with the fans and manager, made a point of pushing him forward to get a bit of adulation. I think he's done fine. I think that lad's done really well. Just in your own time, Liam. He's gone. He's gone.
Those pesky.
Conor, do you want to pick up? Colby? Are you there, Liam? What are you doing? What are you doing?
Greg Taylor's fucking with his Wi-Fi again.
Greg Taylor.
My missus phoning me from Bulgaria.
Never mind the missus. We're talking about Celtic here. Colby Donovan, take it away.
Colby Donovan is exactly what I want to see showing up for Celtic. I'm getting Tierney vibes already. I'm hoping that that this is maybe the mentorship he needs is watching Kieran Tierney on the other side. Just watch what he does. I think he's got the physicality. There was a couple of runs he had. There was one where he made a really strong tackle, but came in hard. I like to see that. I'm really impressed with him. You're wanting to see the one thing that we're doing is good is getting rid of opportunities and wasting them. I'm seeing a boy coming in there that's taking this opportunity by both hands, both feet, whatever you want to call it, and just running with it. And yeah, I couldn't be prouder of him. And I love to see us developing a player that can come in and, if not be a starter soon, certainly biting Ali Johnson's heels to be that number one. And starting in that position, I think he's not done himself any harm. And you wonder how many other players we have like that are just needing a chance. Kieran Tierney being a prime example of someone that we might not have seen if it was for just like the normal development, and if it wasn't for a rash of injuries. Exactly what's happening with Donovan here. You don't know when we would have seen him. Maybe next year, pre-season, who knows? But he's taking this opportunity, and I love it. So pass marks for Donovan. He's one of my bright spots of the season so far.
No, I don't think he's been amazing, but I do think that the fact that he's way down the chain and he's had to come in and he's had to go in there, and Johnson's obviously still out for a while. Ralston might be on the way back, but this lad's been thrust in there. So whether he has got any long-term future at Celtic, which the odds are stacked against him, he probably doesn't. But I just think the fact that he probably wasn't expecting this opportunity, he wasn't expecting to be thrown in there, and to go in there and get the job done. I think it's very, very commendable. I genuinely do. No matter what happens in the future or where he ends up or what his level is. I'm not saying for 1 minute he's going to be a long-term right back for Celtic, but he's stepped up to the mark and he's got the job done so far. Is it ideal that we're going into the Europa League? And do you know what? If we were in the Champions League, we'd have been playing this week with Colby Donovan in the side. So it's the same thing. I'm going to hand the other one over to you, Conor. He didn't have a lot to do today, but what I think one of the key traits for a Celtic goalkeeper is that you have got maximum concentration across the entire 90 minutes. for long spells, if you're playing for Celtic, certainly domestically, across the season, for long spells across game after game after game, you are going to have very little to do. But when you're called upon, you have to be right there in the moment to get it done. Now, I think there was maybe only one moment where Viljani was called into action today, but he was there. And I think we've seen enough over his appearances to think that this guy is probably going to be the next Celtic goalkeeper. Do you agree with that?
Aye, mate. I 100% agree. I think he should have arguably had more minutes than he's already had this season. I think Kasper Schmeichel this season to me is very much starting to look his age. He's made a good few mistakes at the back as well. He isn't looking as sharp. He isn't looking as fit. He isn't looking as flexible. And we've got a young goalkeeper here in Sinisalo who I think is absolutely brimming with potential for me. I think obviously got a lot more minutes last season than what was expecting due to the injury to Kasper Schmeichel. But when he was called upon, I think he's impressed, monumentally for me. I think obviously today, like you're saying, he only had one save to make, but he still made the save. I think that's the important part. It's a simple science. It's like, obviously he has to make the save because that's his fucking job. But he still did it. He looks to me like he's another leader potentially in the dressing room as well. I feel like he's a little bit more vocal than Kasper Schmeichel. Kasper Schmeichel, granted, is vocal when it comes to berating his backline and Liam Scales and Carter Vickers when they eventually cock things up sometimes. But other than that, he seems to be a little bit quieter. Sinisalo, for me, looks like he is forward thinking. He is always wanting to try and get that ball out as quick as possible. You see it with his quick throwouts, his quick passes out from the back as well. He also isn't afraid to launch the ball forward, for a high ball, for a long ball, like that Kasper Schmeichel reticently does. He hardly ever does that. Sinisalo to me looks like he is thinking a step ahead and saying, I could potentially try this as something a bit different, something we wouldn't normally do, but it has potential to maybe turn into something. And Sinisalo for me is, well on his way to cementing himself in that Celtic side. For me, I honestly would give him the entire cup run. That includes the final, and that includes the Scottish Cup as well. And
what about Europa? He won't play. He won't play during the week.
He won't.
Surely.
He won't. Nah, he won't play Europa League because Brendan will go to he's tried and tested in Kasper Schmeichel. And I'm not trying to berate Kasper Schmeichel. I love Kasper Schmeichel. I thought when he first came in, he looked, 2 times the goalie that Joe Hart did when he first came in. And I love Joe Hart as well. So, but Sinisalo to me, I think the bare minimum deserves both domestic cup runs and other potential, games as well. Once the league is basically wrapped up, let's say we go, 15, 16, 17 points clear at some point in the season, I would then give Sinisalo a run of games to just see what he's made of domestically when the title isn't necessarily over the line, but when we're starting to, wrap up and tie a bow on top of it, essentially before it is presented to us. So that's what I would do, because Sinisalo to me has the makings in him of a first team starting keeper for Celtic for me.
So respect support in the chat there for Sinisalo. If you give him the Europa games, and there was 8 of those, and there's hopefully 4 in this, that's 12, and 5 in the Scottish Cup, that would be 17, which would be just short of half of the number of games we play in the league. That would seem to be a fair sort of plan for bringing him in as first choice next season. I don't think he will play. I don't think he'll play in the Europa League. I don't think he'll play during the week. I think Brendan will revert back to Kasper. Let's see how that one plays out. I'm not going to sit here and say the guy's the best goalkeeper in the world because we haven't seen that. But what we've seen in the opportunities that he's had, he does look very competent. And as I say, the thing about being a Celtic goalkeeper is that concentration. And he only had one moment today where he was really called upon, but he was there and he was alert and he got the job done. And the only reason he's not the number one goalkeeper for Finland is because they've got an absolute cracker goalkeeper. The guy that I think he plays for Bayer Leverkusen, or he certainly did last season, he is superb. And if it wasn't for him, this guy would be first choice for Finland. So I'm reasonably comfortable and happy that he's going to be the guy that comes in as our next goalkeeper. Let's move on a wee bit. Let's try and close it in the next 20 minutes here because don't want to drag it out longer than the actual match. So let's look at the week ahead. We're into the semi-finals of the Cup, the League Cup. Let's put the draw up. I'm sure everyone is aware of the draw, but in case you're not, where is it? Have I deleted it? I think I've deleted it. Anyway, everyone will know we're playing Rangers in the semi-final. I thought, thank you, the boys in the bus. There we are. I started, didn't I? I started. It was in the comments and I started. I couldn't find it. There we go. Thank you, Phil. I was pretty sure Stephen Reegan would have been told what the hot balls were, and we would have been built up for a Premier Sports Cup final between Celtic and Rangers, but that's not the case. And Celtic and Rangers will play in the semi-finals, which I believe, just from memory, will be in early November, I think. Let me know in the comments if I've got that wrong. What do you think of the draw, lads? Good time to get Rangers, or would you rather we'd avoided them and got to the final?
Oh,
assuming we would beat St Mirren or Motherwell, by the way, actually.
Aye. Go ahead, Conor.
I mean, have you not heard? Rangers are back now. You know, they played an absolute abysmal team last night in Hibs.
Big Russell's turned it round. Fair play to him. He's absolutely turned it round.
I know. You know, it's only took, you know, Hibs absolutely shit in the bed and Hibs in it, you know, as they famously do. You know, I mean, I'll be honest, I watched their game last night. I wanted to see the hilarity, you know, continue. I wanted to see how bad, you know,
Let
the
me
car
just
crash
ask you,
could potentially get.
Did you want Rangers to win that game or lose? What was the best result?
That is the question.
If they lose it, Russell Martin's gone.
If they lost it, Martin was finished. Right? If they lost it, Martin was 100% finished. That's why, obviously, the fucking Yanks were and stuff like that, and watching the game and stuff like that. But it would have been funny. It would have been absolutely fucking hilarious if they got put out last night, but they didn't. I think that is, you know, a blessing in disguise for Celtic that it keeps Russell Martin in the job for at least another week, to be honest, because I think their next game they're away to Livingston, which, you know, will not be an easy task for them to overcome. But, you know, I think, I reckon, to be honest, last night, if it was any other team that played Rangers, they probably would have gotten the result, because Rangers last night, despite the fact that their accounts on X or Twitter, however you want to call it, are rapping on about a much improved performance and Nico Raskin's the best player in the country and blah blah, a lot of shite that they usually spout when they finally get themselves a win. They just still look very, very average, even, you know, performing against a team last night against Hibs who looked absolutely short of ideas. Now, Hibs technically put the ball in the back of the net first, even they got chopped off for a handball. You know, there is still massive fragility in that side that, you know, can be exploited by just about anybody in the league, as we've seen so far. So for us to get them in the semi-final, I think it is, you know, I would rather play them in the semi-final than the final because of how we have performed in must-win games over the last, 6 months. It's not been something that I am overly confident, doing when it's, Celtic playing there, even though we've done it before, but just with the lackluster performances and the tactics, stuff like that, and the fact that we lost 2 games on penalties, must-win games on penalties in a row, and the fact that we were up against Barry Ferguson last season, who beat us twice, doesn't bode well when we haven't beat them this season, even though everybody else has took points off them. It doesn't really bode well, but it's a team for me where I feel like if what we've seen today is an indicator of things that are to come, where we've got players in like Taneke, Ian Atchell, hopefully continue to progress and get himself sharper. Tierney's now playing 90 minutes, things like that. McCowan could potentially, get more minutes, earn himself a spot in the team, get more, more opportunities. It is something where I look at it and think it is a good time to play Rangers. And I would rather play them in the semi-final, because if we do put them in the semi-final, we, in an ideal world, have one hand on the cup already. Now, I'm not trying to be dismissive or I don't mean any offence to whoever it is else gets into the final, but the odds would be more significantly in our favour, and I think that's something that Celtic need, because
any more than there would have been against Aberdeen in May.
Aberdeen, I've said it all last season that Jimmy Tillene is an absolute fraud of a manager. Right? He is an absolute fucking fraud of a manager. They're bottom of the league. They couldn't buy a win. Now they are absolutely honking, and they were not great last season under him. They had a great start, fair enough, but they fell off a cliff massively after we put 6 past them in the cup early in the season. And they just fell off a massive cliff since then, and they have not recovered one bit. And we were still overwhelming favourites for that, but we had such a bad performance that I can't put my finger on it, why it even happened. I mean, I think there's a load of things going to that mixture. The fact that we even started a half-fit injured goalkeeper in a must-win cup final against a guy who was fully fitted, came in and impressed, in Vinicius Masalo, was a mystery to me, and Aberdeen prepared for that. So that then questions the manager's tactics and his decisions to start certain players who he obviously has an affinity for, being Kasper Schmeichel. But, I mean, this for us, if we go on to beat Rangers and, win the cup, it could be, and we don't necessarily, I think, should need it, because we shouldn't be in that position anyway, but it could be a massive confidence booster for the rest of the season. You see what it does for teams, you know what I mean? And I think that Celtic could potentially use that to keep going and potentially roll on to being a better version of themselves than what we've seen so far.
Right, so what have we got?
Rangers have booked out the local leisure centre for swimming facilities the week before the League Cup semi-final. There you go. We're up against it live, boys. They're going swimming. Okay.
I hope we're asking Sparky's water wings.
That's one. That's one for down the line. That's one to look forward to at the first weekend in November. Before that, we've got Hibs next weekend, which I am going over to, which I'm absolutely delighted about. Looking forward to it. Really looking forward to seeing Sebastian Taneke, and it's a really good game, to be honest. Hibs, yesterday aside, Hibs have been really, really good. They finished last season really well, so it's one of those games that you're traveling over, and there's a bit of anticipation and there's a bit of jeopardy. You're not going over expecting to, you're not just going thinking how many we're going to get. You're going over thinking, are we actually going to win this? So it's exciting and it's interesting, and I'll be in Glasgow from about 8:30 next Saturday morning till Monday afternoon. So if you see me, avoid me. If you see me, avoid me anywhere in Glasgow. Do not come near me. I will ruin your weekend. So let's see how that plays out. But before that, we've got a really important game. Well, is it really important? That's my question. So we play in the Europa League, usually a Thursday night. because there's no Champions League, we're getting a Wednesday night this week. Is it really important? I'll tell you where I'm at with the Europa League. At this moment in time, I've no interest or excitement or anything. It's kind of, I'm thinking about the Hibs game, but the Europa League game is in the way. And it shouldn't be like that, because Europe should be the pinnacle. That should be the aspirations. That should be the higher level that you want to aspire to. But I don't want to aspire to Europa League. I want to aspire to the Champions League. And I've been thinking about how this feels going into the Europa League. And it probably feels like your parents have promised you a holiday to Ibiza, and you've got your bags packed and you're about to go to the airport, and then they turn around and tell you, actually, that's been cancelled and you're going to Butlins for a couple of days. That's probably how it feels to me. It's an anticlimax. If you ask me now who we play, the 8 teams that we play, I couldn't name them, because I didn't watch the draw. I haven't checked to see exactly who we play. I know we play, and I'm going to butcher this, but to me it's Cervena Svezia, Red Star Belgrade. That's how I know them. Former winners of the Champions League, by the way. Were they? Or were they beating the final?
No, they won.
Red Star won it, didn't they?
Aye.
They did. They did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
91. About there.
Who'd they beat in the final? Do you know? Google it. Google it there. This is won it against Marseille. Brilliant, Phil. Thank you. This is a team with European pedigree. This is a team that are always on the periphery of the Champions League. They're in it or they're thereabouts in the last qualifiers. And I know we play them, and I know we play them on Wednesday, but see if you ask me who else we play. I know we play Feyenoord. I think we play Sturm Graz. But see, after that, I haven't really zoned in on it. I'm not interested. Now, I think when the game comes around on Wednesday, I will embrace it and I will be engaged and I will be all in on this competition. But for me, it's now a pain in the ass that's just in the way of the domestic stuff. And that shouldn't be the case, because Europa League, the teams that we will play in this competition are superior to all of the teams, the majority of the teams that we will play domestically. But because it's not the Champions League, because it's not that pinnacle, because it's not that level that we competed in very well last year for the most part, I'm struggling to get up for it. Where are you at with it, Liam?
I'm feeling exactly the same, Terry, and I think this is part of the, why we're so angry at the board right now. This is a conditioning. This is a conditioning of supporters, where what you do is you change the vibe. And you change the vibe by not looking like everybody's moving in the same direction, that we're all up for this. Because all this stuff that we get from the board every time they're trying to sell seasons tickets, like we're all in, and any of these 3-4 word secateurs that they use to sort of advertise a product, which is basically nothing more than shallow and hollow statements, like we are all in. And then it proves, with the apologies and stuff that you get, that they share our disappointment because maybe they weren't all as in as they thought they were all in. And so coming up for a game like that, Red Star, I should be way more excited about that than I am right now. But because the expectations went for Champions League down to this other league, and it's still good teams. I think we've got Roma in that league as well. That's the one I'm looking forward to watching. You've just been conditioned. I think what I'm looking forward to see is on Wednesday is, okay, for Rodgers, this is another must-win game. I believe it is a must-win game where, when you look in that crowd and you'll see them in Belgrade and we see their fans in the stadium, they've also got a very demanding fan base. In fact, you'll see them, they'll have the taps off and the flares and they're Wildgens, and they'll be wanting their team to win as well. And what I'm wanting to see of this team is that we can motivate the team for a big team and for a big game. And that comes down to Rodgers. When is the last time he's won a meaningful game where we are going in and we're expecting to battle to win. We didn't see it. Didn't see it against Rangers. We didn't see it in the Cup. We didn't see it in Kumo, Lake Kumo, when we played there. And we didn't see it against the Rangers team last year. And I really worry about the motivation and the momentum of this team going into big games is we've not been able to capture that. So if you want a positive, Wednesday, I'm looking to see that we can overturn that. That now going away from home, playing against a big team in Europe, a former champion like ourselves, we are really demanding fan base and a scary atmosphere and all that, that we've got the team that can go in and collectively put everything together, put it all behind us, and actually, come on, Rodgers, get this team up for the game. If we come out flat again, and I'll be saying this a while, I think a lot of this stuff with the board is papered over the cracks with Rodgers' performance this year. He's talked a load of shite, and he's showed up with a load of shite as well at times. So I want to see him show up with the goods. You've got the players now, the window's behind you. You've got a squad there. It might not be the squad you want, but you're an elite manager. Make it happen. Get the most out of the guys that are there that you already had, because you've got some good players, and I've not seen any of that. I've not seen it for CCV. You know, Tierney's yet to have a standout game. You know, that's what I want. I want to see something that looks like, wow, we've turned a corner here. And then I'll feel really good about going into the semi-final against Rangers. But if we show up, we can't win another big game. Doesn't matter if we can get Rangers in the semi or the final. Rodgers needs to get this team motivated.
Conor, I'm going to come to you for the final point of the show. Just before I do that, I'm going to come in with something completely left field and wacky here. I've been racking my brains as to why Sean Maloney's been brought in. He's been brought into a job that he's completely overqualified for. This guy's been the manager of Hibs. This guy's been the assistant manager of the Belgian national team. And he's come into Celtic as a pathway manager whenever we don't have a pathway. Clip it up. Do whatever you want. It's totally left field. It's 100-1 shot, right? I've been thinking about... I do not believe Sean Maloney is going to be the next Celtic manager. I don't think they've got the brass neck on them to do that. And I've been trying to work out what is the angle here. Why has he been brought in, right? Bear with me. So I've had a look. Obviously, Maloney was assistant manager to Roberto Martinez. Roberto Martinez almost got the Celtic job about 8 years ago. He was odds on. Either Lenny or Mowbray or one of them two got it. Roberto Martinez's contract with the Portuguese national team ends in the summer of 2026. Have they done a deal for Roberto Martinez? And Sean Maloney's been brought in a year early to get to fucking know the whole. I'm just putting it out there. I'm just sowing a seed. He's done the Belgian national team for 4 years, 2 competitions. He's done the Portuguese national team for 2 years, 4 years, 2 competitions. Is he ready to get into club football? Is there something being done? And that's why Brendan Rodgers, because the natural thing as a supporter, you're thinking they will want to keep Brendan Rodgers. But do they really? Is that the best thing for Celtic? I don't know. I'm torn because I naturally think we're not going to get a better manager. But is what we've seen really that good? I don't know. It's a conversation for another day, but I'm just going in there early. If Roberto Martinez ends up at Celtic Park in the summer, I've told you here first.
I love it.
There's no inside knowledge. I'm just joining dots. I like to join dots. And the Maloney thing it hasn't been keeping me up at night, but it has been playing on my mind because I'm going, there is an angle here. There's no way he's in as pathway manager for a pathway that doesn't exist. There's no way they can make him the next manager after a failed attempt at Hibs and a failed attempt at Wigan. But is there an angle where he's the right-hand man to a guy that we almost brought in previously, who would have been a Desmond production, I'm guessing, who's just about to become a free agent next summer? Who knows? Who knows? Right, Conor, last one. Hibs next weekend. Before that, we've obviously got Cervena Svezia in the Europa. We've touched on that. What about the protest today? So, we, as armchair supporters today, all we can see is what the Premier Sports cameras give us. So it looked as if today's protest was a series of banners with faces on them, who were Nicholson, Lowell. Who was the third one? Was it Mackay or was it Desmond?
Mackay.
Mackay. So those three.
Mm-hmm.
So that was pre-match. And then when the whistle went, it looked as if they were scrunched up and fucked onto the pitch, which didn't make a great spectacle for anybody watching the TV. It looked a bit Trumpy. It looked a bit cheap. But when the camera panned to the individuals who were at the game, and again, I could be wrong on this, but I only seen Mackay and Nicholson, which was the same as last week. Correct me if I'm wrong on that.
Yep.
I obviously couldn't hear what was said, but you could see Mackay's reaction, and it looked as if it was, this is embarrassing as fuck. That's how it looked. That's how it looked to me. That's what he was saying to Nicholson. Well, I'm sorry. Yes, do you know what? It was cheap and it was embarrassing, but nobody has embarrassed us like you fucking guys have embarrassed us. And see the banners that went up during the second half, which called out, because there's a misconception across people who aren't close to this, that this whole protest is about the summer of 2025, a summer of discontent. It isn't. It isn't. That's the straw that broke the camel's back. This is against 20 years of negligence. That's the significance of the banners that went up. It's on the names of all the teams, all the teams across Europe who have put us out of European competition. Teams that should not even be mentioned in the same breath as Celtic. Mm-hmm. And I thought that was very poignant. You've got Ferencváros, AK Athens, I don't know. Cluj.
Kairat Almaty.
I don't even know if it was Copenhagen. Not Kairat, but Athens, AK Athens. The banners called
Maribor.
Out of all these teams that we should have beaten all ends up.
Mm-hmm.
And this protest isn't about the 2025 window of discontent. This protest is about 20 years of absolute negligence, of sleeping at the wheel. And I think that has to be made clear. This is the final straw that broke the camel's back. It's not about this summer. It's about the bigger picture. Conor, what did you think about today's protest? I didn't like the paper line about the pitch. It just looks a bit untidy. But I did like the banners, because the banners completely spell it out that this isn't the last couple of months. This is long-term. This is against long-term negligence at the wheel in charge of Celtic. What did you think about today? And where do you see things? I don't even think long-term, I don't even think we can really try and plan that out. But do you see more action? Next week's the first home game. Since the action started. I would anticipate something will happen, and it'll be my first visit of the season, and I'm interested to see if there's any call to action. It also happens, my dad's going over, but he's not going over with me. I'm flying over next Saturday morning. He's going on the boat, so I'll be in Glasgow from about 8:30, 9 o'clock on Saturday morning, and he'll be outside the ground from about 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock. Now, even if there was even if there was a call to go in later or whatever, then he'll go in at his normal time because he's of a certain age and he'll want to go and get to his seat and he won't want any kind of rush in and all that kind of stuff. And that's fine. I think we have to really, really respect what was talked about at the original meeting, where if you want to exercise your view, then you do it. But if it doesn't suit you, then you do your own thing. And I think even from last week's game, there's been a bit of discontent that some supporters didn't do what we wanted them to do. But that's all right. That's what you said. You said it was everybody's individual choice to do what they wanted to do. And some people will need to get to their seat earlier because of health reasons or age reasons, or they've got dependents that they want to look after, and all that stuff. All that's fine. What was your thoughts on today's display, and how do you see it cranking up in the next couple of weeks?
I think you just broke a Guinness World Book of Records there for the longest build up to a question in world history, mate. But
I must have beat you then, because you were probably the last one, were you?
Probably. Aye, I think you've just outdone me there. But aye, I'm fully on board. Like I've said previously, on the show, that I am massively in favour of the protests. I don't even think necessarily they looked cheap today. I understand that he maybe didn't like the look of it and maybe looked a bit cheap and tacky. Well, the board are fucking cheap and tacky, mate. They have completely rinsed us from fucking pillar to post, mate, for the last 20 odd years. The fact that prices go up every single year and we get less and less back. You don't even get free friendly games. You don't even get a cup game on your season book anymore. Things like that. They consistently take the piss with bidding for players, lowballing offers, rinse and repeat. This thing is not just something that has cropped up this year. This has been death by 1,000 cuts. To be totally honest, that's what this entire build-up has been, and I am massively, massively in favour, and I totally sympathise and support what the Ultras groups are doing, whether it's the Green Brigade or the Boys, or whether it's just individual fans. If you are out there and you want to go up, print out a big picture of Dermot Desmond, Michael Nicholson, Peter Lawwell's face with a big cross through it and smack it on the front, door of Celtic Park, be my fucking guest, because you 100% have my backing on that, because that is no less than these shower of bastards deserve. They deserve to be chased metaphorically and physically from the stadium, with pitchforks and torches. And I mean that in every sense of the word, because they have just absolutely took the fucking piss for years out of us as a support. The fact that the stadium has looking an absolute fucking shambles. Then now there is materials been missing from the side of it for months now, since a storm in January. The fact that there is not hot running water in the fucking toilets inside Celtic Park. There isn't a fucking opportunity to get a pie that probably costs 10 pence from a wholesaler's without costing a fucking arm or a leg, and half a week's wages if you're wanting to get some food for your family at the game. The fact that they agree deals with a company and Adidas who want to big us up to be this so-called elite club, and yet the products they provide us with are fucking subpar at best. I think this season it's probably one of their worst outings and the contributions that Adidas have made for us. You see the kits that have been launched worldwide for clubs half the size of Celtic, and they get absolutely fantastic pieces of material and clothing and things to show off to the world, and we get given absolute shite and then a fucking kit that looks like a stick of Blackpool Rock, and that's not necessarily the board's fault, but the board, will be made aware of all these things, and we'll have to.
It's a cracking kit, by the way.
Shut up, Terry.
It is, man.
It's shite, mate. It's shite.
You're an old man. You're an old man in a 25-year-old's body.
Mate, I turned 28 on Wednesday, so I'm happy. I think I look 25 though. Cheers, mate. I'll take that. But it's beggars belief, mate. The fact that we are running, the gamut of players who are ex-Premier League players who are coming to the twilight of their career, and the fact that, they are now using Celtic as some wayward home for fucking, they're like dogs on their fucking deathbed who are, you want to give one last good day out to chase the ball about the park and have a bit of fun and maybe win a trophy in their career. And that's what, we seem to be turning into now. The fact that we have a manager in Brendan Rodgers who's won us more than any other manager in our modern history, and it gave us unbelievable moments throughout the years. Now, we came under a lot of criticism this year, but has not been adequately backed, despite the fact that he won 2 doubles, upon his return. And, when we were kind of left, wondering what was going to happen when Ange left, he came in and, steered the ship in the right direction, albeit, a little bit difficultly at times, but still done it. The fact that, these charlatan, crook bastards continue to turn their nose up at us and think that we are, lesser than them because, we're not got heated driveways and Range Rovers and Bugattis, sitting in the front driveway, just goes to show you that we are no more detached now than we ever have been. The fact that when the protests were going on, they couldn't hardly be asked to look up from their mobile phones to sit in and take in what the support spent time and effort and potentially their own money to make these, materials for the protest. They couldn't even be bothered to look up and take it in and maybe try and take it on board and maybe have a look within themselves, look in the mirror and ask what more they can do. I think it's absolutely disgusting. And, the fact of the matter is that this should continue. And I think this will continue next week, the week after that, until these fuckers are gone. And I hope that is the case. I hope the pressure does not die down one bit. And that is one of the fears that I have, that potentially we do well in the Europa League. We do win a treble this season, potentially. The possibility is still there that certain groups of people will take their eyes off the board and they won't, continue to pressure saying, but we did okay this season, we did win a treble and got to, a knockout round of the Europa League and, racked up some points and got some coefficient points, whatever. It's not good enough. Like, that's the bare minimum that we should be doing. The bare minimum for a club besides Celtic, with the finance of Celtic, who just published the numbers, £77 million in profit. Where the fuck's that going to go? What's it getting spent on? We have no idea. They've literally just finished Barrowfield after it was said to be done months ago. Do you know what I mean? Get that defibrillator at me, I need it. But it's after it's been finished, should have been finished months ago. Finally, we, I don't know what the money is being spent on. If there was any communication at all saying, we're keeping the money for this, we're wanting to build another stand, we want to build another level on top of the stadium to give people the opportunity who are on the waiting list for years, like Reegan, who has just got a season ticket, who's also a member of the podcast, who's just got a season ticket after 12 years on the waiting list. I've been on the waiting list about 6 years. Do you know what I mean? So if they gave us, communication, a structure, a plan, do you know what I mean? A blueprint of what they were trying to do, it would be a better, not as hard a pill to swallow, the hoarding of the money and the giant Scrooge McDuck vault that they fucking just keep it all in, that no one gets to see a penny of it. More importantly, the fans, we don't get any of the benefits of the money that we've pumped into this club. If anything, the more money we put in to the club to support them, to buy every single kit that comes out, all the training gear, every single ticket that is sold, whether it's a season ticket or a single match day ticket, because no matter how poor or how good Celtic are doing, tickets for every single game will sell out, more than likely. At 35 quid a pop to watch us play shite like fucking St Mirren. Do you know what I mean? Teams like that. The prices don't match up. Do you know what I mean? The more we put in, the more they want to take out. And it is absolutely disgusting and I'm sick of it. And I know I've went on for ages, but it's just a subject that I am clearly very passionate and very still angry about. But the quicker that these, bastards are ousted out, the better for me. And just continue the protest, guys. Continue making your voices heard, whether it be outside the stadium, in the grounds, putting out banners, on Twitter or social media. Make your voices heard and stand on your soapbox and let these Tory cunts fucking know exactly what you think of them.
Conor, Liam, thank you very much for your company today. I'm going to bring it to a close. So we're into the last 4 of the League Cup. We play Rangers in the semi-finals. We've got a Europa League game against Cervinus Fedza during the week. We've then got Hibs next weekend in a key game in the SPL. I'm going to close on the manager's comments post-match. I can't tell supporters what to think, what to say, what to sing. I disagree with you, Brendan, because the only person that's speaking to us from the club is you, genuinely, because the other guys are just using AI and putting out statements just to try and kick the can down the road. So we form our opinions based on what we see happening and what we get from the inside. But the only person from the inside that's telling us anything is the manager. And the only person that's telling us anything that we can kind of rationalize with and make any kind of sense out of. And it may be right, it may be wrong. I guess some of it's right, some of it's maybe not right. But he's been feeding this drive by the supporters. I said in the last post-match, he's the orchestrator. He's standing there. He's conducting the tunes, and we're playing along with his tune. So for him to stand there today and say he can't tell us what to say or sing, he knows that he has got us where he wants us, and he's directing us. He's telling us the struggles that he's had to try and make a better Celtic. He's telling us that he wants to stay. Whether that's true or not is debatable, very, very debatable. But he's painting this picture this time to make sure that no matter what happens, his Celtic legacy is one that lives on in the annals of time. But until somebody else from the club comes out and gives us a different view, he's calling the tune. He's the one that we're feeding off, and the information that he gives us is key. And he has basically told us through this window, he has played the whole game out, and in his press conferences, he has created this environment where he's totally committed to Celtic. He wants to be here for the future. He wants the best Celtic that can possibly be. That's all stuff that all supporters want. Now, the bit where it gets complicated is where he's then trying to pick out key members of the board that he is saying are allies of his and bleed Celtic and want the best for Celtic. So I think that creates a scenario now with the way he's played it out in his conferences and in the media is actually, guys, you're now going for everybody, but Michael's a good guy and Dermot's a good guy. So it's almost like he's directing us to the people that he hasn't mentioned. What's the manager's role in all of this? I'll give you 60 seconds each and then we're done. Conor, go first.
I think I've spoke enough tonight, mate, about this topic. I'm going to save all your ears, and I'll just let Liam finish up on it, because if I talk anymore about this board, there'll no be a fake wee defibrillator on our screen. It'll be an actual fucking defibrillator that I'm going to need to get through this. So I'll just let Liam take it to finish off the show, mate.
Liam, take us out.
Brendan needs to just stop the bullshit. Talk to us. You say you're a supporter. Talk like Wani is. All this, the amount of bullshit and the amount of, like, you know, the stuff that's like wee innuendos, this and that. If you got something to say it. You've got the entire support behind you. It doesn't look like you're going to get anything else beyond this season. And again, I've still not been able to see you motivate my team when it counts, Rodgers. So, you know, until you get that under control, you know, let's make this season about the team. Let's make it about the players. I'm sick and tired talking about the board and Rodgers. And I said at the very beginning of this season, the one thing I don't want to see happening is this season becoming all about Rodgers. And right now, it's all Rodgers. He's a wee drama queen. Can't wait to see the back of him.
That's not what I was expecting. Okay, right. That's us done. Partick Thistle 0, Celtic 4 into the semi-final of the League Cup. We play Rangers in the semi at the start of November. We've got Cervenas Fedza on Wednesday night. I'll be back. I don't know who I'll be on with, but I'll be on with somebody. Thank you all for coming on tonight. Thank you to everyone who's been here from the start, everyone who's joined during, and we will see you during the week for the next installment of The Bus Home. Thank you, everyone. Cheers.
Right.